Okay guys, so welcome back again. So in this video, let's see that how do we use Auth0 for authentication inside our React applications. Though this can be used for any type of application, like if you are building a mobile application, then you can also use Auth0. So it's a multi-purpose authentication provider that you can use inside many types of applications. So basically Auth0 uses OAuth2 for authentication and it is super simple to implement. So without wasting any time, let's see that how do we do it. So here what we are going to do, we are going to do two things. Firstly, we are going to protect our front-end React application. And secondly, we are also going to protect our backend, that is our API that is running on Node.js Express. Though any kind of backend can be used, it need not be an Express application. You can use any type of framework or any type of language which you are using. So without wasting any time, let's see that how do we implement it. So firstly, what you need to do is you need to create an account here on Auth0. And then when you click on login, you would be provided with this stuff. That is, you would be taken to this window where you need to create a tenant. And in Auth0, everything starts with a tenant. And this should be a unique identifier inside this auth0.com domain. So here you can provide in your own domain name because I suppose that is unique for Auth0. So here let's simply provide in a unique identifier for your application. So let's simply call it yours truly 26, I suppose, if we can use it. So we see that we get a green check mark, which means that we can use this tenant. And then you need to select a region which is nearest to you. So I'm selecting US here because none of them are nearest to me. So let's simply click on create account and it would take a couple of seconds to create an account. So let's wait for a couple of seconds. And now we are inside the dashboard, inside this tenant account that we just created, that is yours truly 26. So now the first thing we need to do is to create an application. So let's click on applications and then we select this applications tab. So now it provides us with this default application, but we are going to create our own application. So let's click on create application. And here we need to choose the type of application we are going to create. So since we are going to use it inside our React application, so let's simply choose this thing here, that is single page web application. So let's select this thing and then you need to provide in the name. So let's provide in the name that is yours truly, and this can be any name again. So let's simply provide here yours truly 2607, this time to 2607. And now let's simply click on create. And now it will create this application. And it provides you with a quick start to implement in the technology you are using for. So I'm going to select here React. So now let's go to the settings thing here. And here we need to do a couple of things. Firstly, we have this basic information. We have the domain here that says yours truly 26.us.auth0.com. And basically this is the tenant here. So yours truly 26 is the tenant name. As you can see here that this is the tenant name. And then we have the client ID and then we have the client secret. In case if you want, you can provide in a description. For the application logo, you can provide in your own application logo, but here let it be for now, that is the Auth0 logo here. Though you can simply provide in a URL to your image and that would be used as your application logo, but I'm not doing it right now. So I'm letting it to be this thing here. And then we need to fill in a couple of things here, that is inside application URIs. We need to do a couple of things. So since we are running our React application on localhost port 3000, so what we need to do, we need to provide that URL inside these callback URLs. So let's copy this URL, that is localhost port 3000, and let me paste it here. And then we also need to provide in the logout URLs. And basically logout URLs means that is when the user logs out of your application where he should be taken to. And I'm simply providing here localhost port 3000 because I'm going to create a very simple React application which contains only a single page. And then we have this thing here that is allowed web origins. So since we are using localhost, so let's simply paste it here, that is localhost port 3000. And then we can scroll down and we can simply click on save changes. So let's simply click on save changes. And that's all what you need to do inside this dashboard as of now to implement authentication inside your React application. So let's go to our React application and let's see what we have here. So currently we see that here we have the heading and here we have the UL or the unordered list. So let's go back to our code and let's see that what actually we have inside here. So here for this React application, I've created this React application using the create React app package, and just ignore this API folder as of now. I would be coming to this in a moment. And in this React application, which I've created using the create React app package, I've just simply removed all the unnecessary files. So I've only kept these two files here, that is index.js and app.js, and the required CSS files. So the first thing we need to do is to go to the index.js file, and here what we need to do, we need to install a dependency called auth0 React. So let's copy this dependency from here and let's install it. And later on we would be also installing Axios to query our API. So let me install this dependency, that is auth0, like this. And why not, let's also install this Axios library, which we are going to require later on. So let's also install this Axios. So let it install in a moment. So now the dependency have been installed. So let's simply start the application by doing npm start, so that it should be up and running. So now let's minimize the terminal here. So let's go back, let's minimize the terminal, and the application is up and running, as we can see. So the first thing we need to do is to go to our index.js file, and we want to wrap our app component inside a provider that is provided by auth0. So let's do it here. So let's import something from auth0 React. That is the library we installed. And then what we want to extract here, we want to simply extract here auth0 provider, simply like this. And then we are going to wrap our app component inside this auth0 provider. So we'll say auth0 provider like this, and we are going to wrap this app component inside this auth0 provider. And now inside this auth0 provider, we need to provide in some props. So the first prop we need to provide would be the domain, and we would be filling that in a moment. There should not be a comma here. And then we need to provide in the client ID. This should be equal to something. And then we need to provide in a redirect URI. So redirect URI would be equal to something. So firstly, let's see that what all these things are. That is domain, client ID, and redirect URI. So for the domain, if we go back to our dashboard here, that is the application dashboard, we see that we have this domain here that is says yours truly 26.us auth0.com. So let's simply copy this domain from here, and let's go here, and here we can simply paste it. Now let's simply copy the client ID from our dashboard, and let's go back and let's simply paste in the client ID here. And now for the redirect URI, what we are going to provide here, we are simply going to provide here the window location.origin. That is this thing here, that is window.location.origin. So that's all what we need to do inside this index.js file. So now let's go to this app.js file, and here what we are going to do, firstly we are going to remove this UL from here, and here we would be using a hook that is exported from this dependency, that is auth0 React. So let's import that hook from auth0 React, and the hook's name is use auth0. And basically this hook, that is use auth0, provide us with many functions and variables that are state variables to be used inside our application. That is, it provides us with the login functionality, it provides us with the logout functionality, and many more such things. So let's see it in action. So const something equal to use auth0, simply like this, and we do not need to provide in any value here. And here we have a couple of functions. Firstly, we have this thing here, that is login with popup. We have login with redirect. So as the name suggests of these functions, that is, if we use this function, that is login with popup, a pop-up window will open inside the browser, and we can either sign up or either login. And with this function, that is login with redirect, we would be redirected to a new page where we can do the same things, that is login or sign up. And then this hook also exports a logout function. So let's use that also, that is logout. This hook also exports a user variable that contains the user if there is any user. It also exports this variable that is authenticated, whether the user is authenticated or not. So let's save it. And now we have these things here. So to try all these things, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a couple of buttons here. So let me simply create a UL here, and we have these LIs, and inside these LIs, I'm going to create a couple of buttons. So the first button would be a login with popup, simply like this. And then let me simply copy and paste it here, and this button should be login with the redirect, because we are going to see different experiences with the pop-up and redirect. And now let me again copy this button and paste it here, and this button should be logout like this. So let's save this. And now we need to handle the on-click events on these buttons. So for the first button, we can simply say on-click equal to login with pop-up. On the second button, we should say login with redirect. And on the third button, we should simply say log out, simply like that. And then we can also display whether the user is authenticated or not. So for that, we are going to use this variable that is authenticated. So here, let me simply provide in an h3. And here we can simply say that user is authenticated or not. So we can use a JSX here. So we can simply say if it's authenticated is true, then we can simply say that user is logged in. Otherwise, we can simply say user is not logged in. So we can simply say not logged in, simply like this. And for the user, that is for the user object, what we can do, we can simply display it inside pre-tags. So after the h3, let me write a pre-tag here, that is an HTML tag, and here I'm going to simply style it, that is takes a line to be start, because otherwise it would be in the middle because of the default CSS provided by the create react app package. And here I can simply use JSON.stringify, that is JSON.stringify user comma null comma 2, like this. So let's save this and let me remove this empty space from here, like this. And what more we can do, we can only display these pre-tags when the user is authenticated. So what we can do, we can simply write a JSX here, and here we can simply say if is authenticated is true, then only we want to display the pre-tags, that is this, that. So where are the ands? Yes, like this. So let's cut this bracket from here and let's paste it here. So now it makes much more sense. That is, if is authenticated is true, then only we are going to display this user inside these pre-tags. So let's save this and let's see that if our application is running. So it is up and running. So let's go back to our application, and here let's go back to our application. So we see that we are getting this message, that is, let's reload. So we see that we are getting this thing here, and currently we see that we are getting this message, that is user is not logged in, and it is because is authenticated is false. So firstly, let's see that what happens if we click on login with redirect. So let's click login with redirect. So now we are taken to this page. Though this is the default page or the default UI provided by Auth0, though you can completely use your own UI for this stuff, or you can use the built-in UI provided by Auth0, which is highly customizable. You can change the background color, you can change the logo, you can change the color of the button, so on and so forth. But I'm not going to do that in this video because it is very simple to do, though I would tell you that how do you do all the stuff. So now, since we do not have an account, so what we need to do, we need to sign up. So let's click on sign up. So we are on this page, that is sign up to yours truly 26 to continue to yours truly 2607. So this is the application we created, that is the React application. And this is the tenant which we created. So let me provide in an email address. So let me simply provide abc@xyz.com. So which is a false domain name. Or let me provide in a valid email address, that is yours truly 2607@gmail.com. that is my email address. And for the password, let's simply provide here a password, that is QWERTY. And if we have a look here, we see that we get all this thing here, that is we have a very secure password, that is our password should contain at least each of these things. So we need to provide our password which should contain at least 8 characters, which should also have a lowercase letter, which should also have a uppercase, numbers, special characters. So let me provide in a password like that, which should satisfy all the details. So now let's simply click on continue. And now it asks us to authorize the app, that is this app, that is yours truly 2607, which is a React app, is requesting access to your tenant account. So basically, since we are running on localhost, so therefore we are getting this authorize app thing here. But if you are running on an actual domain, or which is not localhost, then you shouldn't be getting this thing here. And this is for a reason here, because in Auth0 you can create two types of application. One is the first party application and other is the third party application. So I'm not going to talk about the third party application, but I can talk about the first party application. And all the application which we create here, that is inside this dashboard, they are all first party application. But since localhost port 3000 is not a verified application, so therefore it displays us this authorization thing. But in your real application, you should not be getting this thing here. So now let's simply click on accept. And in the meanwhile, what we got, if we open our email, so let's go to Gmail. So we see here that we get a message or an email from this thing here, that is verify your email. So This is an auto-generated message, that is we need to verify our email, and the verification link is this, but we are not going to verify it as of now. So let's go back to our application and let's see what we have here. So we see that we get this thing here, that is user is logged in because we signed up for the application and now we are logged in automatically. And this is the user object which I was talking about, that is we have the nickname that is extracted from the email itself. Then a gravatar is automatically generated. So if we have a look at this gravatar, so let's go to this gravatar URL. So we see that this gravatar has been automatically generated by using the first 2 letters of your email. And then we see that we have this thing also, that is email verified. So currently it is false, but why not? Let's go to this verify email and let's click on this verify your account. So let's click here and we see that we get this message, that is email verified. And if I reload the page, I suppose we should be getting email verified to be true. So we see that now we get this email verified to be true. So now let's log out with this application. So let's click on log out. And now we see that we get this message, that is user is not logged in. So now we saw that how do we use login with redirect. So now let's see that how do we use login with pop-up. But for that I need to get off the full screen mode for login with pop-up to work correctly. So now let's click on login with pop-up. And now we get this pop-up. So let's simply provide in the email address, that is yours truly 2607@gmail.com, and password was something like this thing here. Let's press enter or let's continue, and we would be seeing about this continue with Google thing in a moment, but let's simply continue. And now we see that again we are logged in and we have this user object again. So let's log out once again. And now we are not logged in. So let's click on login with pop-up once again. And this time let's see that how does continue with Google work. So basically Auth0 by default provides you with developer keys for Google. So you can use those only in development purposes. So let's simply click on continue with Google. Though for a real world application, you need to provide in your client ID and client secret to use Google as a sign-in method. So now let's simply click on my account here. And now if we click here, we should be getting a message or a authorization. So we see that we need to click on accept. Though again, in a first party application, you should never be seeing this thing here. So just don't worry about this thing. So now let's simply click on accept. And once we accept, we get this object back, that is this user object back. And here we see that email is verified and it is coming from Google. And this is the auth ID. And then here we have the picture. So if we go to this URL, we already have the picture of the user account. So this is the image. So this is how we use Auth0 authentication on the front end. But now let's see that how do we protect our Express API using Auth0. So that is pretty simple to do. So let's go into the full screen mode once again. And let's go back to our application. So here what I've done again inside this folder, that is inside the create React app package, I've created this folder called API. And in this API folder, I've created a very basic NPM project, or I've created a new NPM project by doing npm init-y. And if we have a look at the package.json file, it contains only 2 dependencies, that is cors and express. And if we have a look at the server.js file, we see that it is a very basic Express server that is running our API. So here at the top, we have the Express, and then we initialize the Express application. Then we simply use cors because our Express server is on port 4000 and we would be making requests from port 3000. So we need to use cors here, that is to allow cross origin requests. So that is why I'm using cors here. And then we have only 2 routes, that is the index route, which simply sends back hello from index route. And then we have this route, that is hello from protected route. So let's try to connect to this API, or let's try to start this API. And then we'll make a request from our front end, that is a React application, to this API. So let's go through this package.json file once again. So here we see, here we have a script called start script, which says node server.js. Or let's simply change it to nodemon, and we'll install this as a dev dependency in a moment. So let's install it once again. So let's stop the application, that is the React application, and now let's cd into the API folder. And now if we ls here, we need to install it here, that is npmi nodemon, and it should be -- save dev to install it as a dev dependency. So let's save this. And now let's go back to the root folder, that is our React folder. And now we have this start script. So let's save this package.json file. So, okay, so let's cross it and let's close this file. Don't save. Let's open the package.json once again. So now we have a dev dependency called nodemon, and now instead of this node, let's change it to nodemon, because we need to start our server many times as soon as we save the server.js file. So let's save this package.json file. So now let's go inside this package.json file of our root folder, that is the create react app package, and not the API folder one package.json file. So I'm here inside this package.json file, and here what I've done is this, that I've created one dev dependency, if we can see, that is called concurrently, so that we can run our React application and our API server at the very same time using this dependency. So if we have a look at the script here, so we have this dev script which simply says concurrently npm start to start this script, that is React script start. And then we also want to cd into the API folder, and we want to use npm start to start the API. So we do not need this thing here. So let's save this package.json file once again, and let's try to install start this application once again by using npm run dev. So let's simply press enter. So this is the way concurrently works. So we see that we have this server on port 4000 and something is already running on port 3000. So let's simply kill each and everything once again. So let's simply use this thing here, that is kill all -9 node. So let's clear out, and this time let's try once again, that is npm run dev. So now everything seems to work fine. So the app is up and running, I suppose. So we have this React app and we are logged in. So let's go back, and we see that our API is also up and running. So we see that we have this server on port 4000 that comes from this server.js file. That is this file. That is from here. So now let's try to make a request, or let's try to make a request to this API. So let's go to our app.js file, and here before the pre-tags, after the user is authenticated, I would like to have another UL, and let's create two buttons here. So button, and it should say call API, and let's copy this button once again, and let's call protected API route, and this call API route, this is not a protected API route, and this is a protected API route. So here what I'll do, I'll create two functions here at the top. So let's create function. So function would be call API like this, and let's create one more function that says call protected API, simply like this. So let's go here, and before doing anything we need to install Axios, or have we already installed? So if we have a look at the dependency, we have already installed Axios here, so we can directly make request. So here inside the call API, let's simply say axios.get, and here what do we want to get? We simply want to get this local host port 3000 and the index route dot then, and here we have the response, and then we can simply console.log the response data, that is response.data like this, and I'm not catching it as of now, though you want you can. And in this route, let me simply copy it from here, that is this axios.get, and here what I want to get, I want to call this route, that is protected route. So let's simply copy this protected route, and let me simply paste it here. So let's save this thing from here, and let me catch the error here also. So .catch, and here we have the error, and here we can simply log in the errors, that is console.log error.message like this. So we can do it like this. This seems to be fine, and let's also paste it here. So since we are catching it at one place, so why not let's catch it at both the places. So now what do we want to do? We want to call this method function when we click on the upper button, that is this button. So let's have the on click event here. So we have this on click event, and here we can simply say call API, and on this button click we want to call the protected API. So on click equal to call protected API. So let's save this, and let's go back to our application. So here let me log out, because it doesn't matter as of now, and let's right click and let's click on inspect, and let's open the console here. So let's click on this call API, and we see that we are getting this message here. And why is it so? And that is because we have called the localhost port 3000 and not 4000, because our server is on port 4000, so it should be 4000 and not 3000. So let's call it like this. So let's save this and let's go back and let's reload the page. Let's clear up the console. Let's call the API route, and we see that we are getting this message that is hello from index route. And if we click this button that is called protected API route, we are also getting the message here that is called hello from protected route. So let's log in back to our application. So let's click on login with redirect. So now let's simply provide in the email address that is yours truly 2607, and let me simply provide in the password here. Let's continue and we should be taken back to our application. So now we are logged in. So now to protect our API route, what we need to do is to send a JWT token that is issued by this authentication service, that is auth0, and then we can verify that JWT token at the backend, that is inside our API. So how do we do it? It is pretty simple to do. So for that, what we need to do, we need to again go to our application details, that is inside the dashboard. And here inside this API section, we need to create an API, or we need to define an API. Though auth0 by default provides that with the management API, but we are not going to touch it. We are not going to use it. We are going to create our own API. So let's create our API here by clicking here. And here we need to provide in the name of the API. So let's simply provide here Express API or whatever the API is used for. And then we need to provide in the unique identifier for our API. Though typically you can simply provide in the URL of your API, but this can be any identifier. Like I'm not providing in the URL here, but I'm simply providing in the identifier like this is a unique identifier like this. And we need to provide in the signing algorithm. So you can use HS or RS. So I'm using RS256. So let's click on create. And if you're following along with me, you should be using RS256. So let's click on create. And now we have this thing here, and I think we do not have to do anything inside this thing here, but we need to do a couple of things inside our Express application. So let's go to our server.js file and let me stop the application here. And what we need to install a couple of dependencies to verify the JWT coming from the client side. And to get the JWT, we'll be looking that in a moment. But firstly, let's implement the verification of the JWT, or let's see that firstly, let's see that how do we get the JWT. So let's go to our app.js file and let's start the application once again. So that you should know that how do we get the JWT. So when we call the protected API route, we need to get the JWT first, and then only we can make a Axios request. So let me comment this Axios thing from here. And here what I'll do, I'll use a function here that is get access token silently to get the access token, and this access token is a JWT, and this token would be verified on the backend. So here inside this call protected API, I can simply make this function async like this, and then here I can simply say const token equal to await get access token silently, and this function is exported by this hook itself. And now what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to log this token inside the console. So I can simply do console.log token like this. So let's save this and let's see that if we are able to get the token. So let's go back here. So we are logged in. So if I click here, that is called protected API. So it should get us the token inside the console. So let's clear out the console. So let's click on call protected API. So we see that we have this token here. But as you see that this token doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't look like a JWT. To get the JWT, what we need to do, we need to go to our index.js file. So let's go back here, and inside this index.js file, inside the auth0 provider, we need to provide here a couple of things. Firstly, the API for which this token is used for, and secondly, we need to provide in the scope. So to provide in the API for which this token is used for, we need to provide in an audience here like this, and we'll fill in the blanks in a moment. And we need to provide in scopes here. So scope would be equal to something, and typically here we need to provide in OpenID, and I will tell you what each means. So OpenID, profile, and email. So basically this OpenID informs the auth0 authorization server that the client is making an OpenID connect request, that is OIDC request, to verify the user's identity. And this scope, that is profile, basically requests the server to provide us the profile information such as the name, the nickname, and the picture. And email simply means to provide the email, and the email is verified or not. And in this audience tab, what we need to provide, we need to go back to our dashboard here. And here we need to provide in this unique identifier. So let's copy this unique identifier and let's go back and let's paste it here inside the audience tab or audience prop. So let's save this. And now let's go back to our application here and let's reload the page. So now we should be logged in or we are logged out. So we see that we are not logged in right now. So we need to log in again. So let's click on login with redirect. So let's click on accept, and now we see that since we provided in those scopes, that is OpenID, profile and email, so therefore we are getting this message that is authorize app. So now we can simply click on accept. So let's click on accept, and now we are logged in. And now if we click on call protected API route, so we should be getting the access token, that is a JWT. So let's click on call protected route. So now we see that this time we get the access token, which is an actual JWT. So now when we call this protected API route, we need to send this token along in the request as the authorization header. So we can do that very easily. So let's go back to our application and let's go to our app.js file. And here, before making a request, what we can do, we can simply say const response equal to await. Since we are using async function, so we can use await with Axios. So we can say await axios.get, and here we can provide in the same URL, that is the protected URL, and let me paste it here like this. And then we need to provide in some configuration here. So let's provide in the headers here, that are which headers are being sent with this request, and here we need to provide in the authorization header, so like this. And since this contains the bearer token, so the format is like this, that is we have to write bearer space and then the token itself, that is this JWT, which we get silently from the Auth0 hook, like this. So this is all what we need to do. And then we have the response here, and then what we can do, we can simply log in the response data that is coming from the client backend, that is console.log response.data. And since we are using async and await, so it could fail sometime. So we should wrap it inside a try catch block like this. So let's wrap everything inside try and catch like this, and we can get rid of this call here, that is the Axios call. So let's save this. And if there is an error, we can simply log in the error also. So just to see that what the error is, so we can simply say error.message, simply like this. So let's save this. And now let's go back to our server.js file. So now we need to extract that bearer token inside our application, and then we need to verify that access token, and only if that access token is verified, then only we want to call this protected route. So for that, what we can do, we can create a middleware to be used inside our application. But before doing so, we need to install a couple of dependencies to verify the token. So let me stop the server here and let's cd into the API folder. Let's clear out and let's install these dependencies, that is express-jwt, and it simply extracts the token automatically from the bearer header or the authorization header as the bearer token. And then we are going to use this dependency that is called jwks RSA, and it simply uses the JSON web key sets to provide in the secret for the token verification. And then we also need to install this Axios library to get the user details or the user information from the access token. So let's install these dependencies. So what we have done here, so we need to do npmi, not simply like that. So let's install it and let's wait for a couple of seconds, and it would take a bit of code to do it. So now everything is installed. So let's go back to the root folder and let's simply do npm start to start, or npm run dev to simply run both the services, that is the front end and the back end. So now let's go here inside our server.js file. So let's go to our server.js file, and here firstly what I'm going to do, I'm going to require these things, that are these dependencies, that is const jwt equal to require express jwt, and then we need to require jwks. So jwks equal to require jwks RSA, and then we also require this Axios because sooner or later we are going to need that also. So require Axios like this. So now let's create our middleware here. So here what we can say, we can create a middleware like this, that is const verify jwt equal to JWT, and here we need to provide in some options. So the first option would be the secret. The secret we can get from the JWKS thing. So JWKS thing dot express JWT secret like this, and here we are going to provide in the options, but we are going to do that in a moment. Secondly, what we need to provide here is the audience for the token. So here we can say audience like this, and audience would come from this thing here, that is from your API details. So this identifier is the audience. So let's copy it, and the same identifier we used here on the front end inside our Auth0 provider, that is this Auth0 provider, that is this audience, is same as this thing here. So let's provide this thing here, and then we need to provide in the issuer for this token. So issuer would be something, and then we need to provide in the algorithm used. So algorithm like this. So to provide in the algorithm, if we go back to our API details, that is the Express API details, we know that we are using this RS256 algorithm. So let's copy this algorithm from there and let's simply paste it here. And the issuer would be our tenant. And in our case, it would be like, it should be like yours truly 26 dot. Let me show it to you that where is the tenant. So if we click on the quick start here, and if we scroll down, and if we click on Node.js, we see that here is the default values which should be provided by your application. So here we see that here we have the issuer. So let's simply copy this issuer from here. And let's go back and let's paste it. And now let's come to this thing here, that is Express JWT options. And here we need to provide in a couple of things, that is cache to be true, and then rate limit to be true, JWKS request per minute. So let's provide in JWKS request per minute should be 5, and JWKS URI would be something. And how I know I need to provide these values, if we have a look at the documentation, so there they have used these values as well. So now what we can do, we can simply copy this thing from here and let's paste this JWKS URI, and we see that we have this URI. And basically this points to our tenant which we created at the very first time when we started this application, that is yours truly 26 was the tenant name. And then there is a folder there called well known, and there we have the JSON web key set. So this is how it works. So now let's save this. So now let's use this verify JWT as a middleware. So let's simply say app.use verify JWT like this. So let's save this. Everything seems to work fine. And if we go to our application, React app, and if we click here, that is called protected API route, we see that we are getting a message back from hello protected route. And what more we can do, if we go down here, that is, or let me show you one more thing. Let's log out from the application and let's try to make a request to that route. So if we call that route, that is called protected API route, we see that we are getting this message here, that is login is required. And if we call the API route thing here, we see that request field with status code 401, that is unauthorized. So how are we getting these messages? And it is because we are verifying the JSON web token before we are sending back the response from the server, that is from this server. So what more we can do, we can provide here routes which do not need authentication very simply inside this verify JWT middleware. So what we can do here, we can simply say .unless, and here we can provide in the paths. That means that for these parts, the verification or the middleware should not be used. So if we save this, we see that we are on port 4, we see that the server restarted. And if we go back to our application and if we call this API route, we see that we are getting this message, that is hello from index route. But if we call this route, that is called protected API route, we are getting this message login required. And this is directly thrown by this thing here. That is, if we go to our app.js file, that message which we saw is directly called by this thing here, because we are not able to get the access token. So we are getting that message, that is login required. So what more we can do, we can make a generic error handler inside our server.js file. And here we can simply say app.use. And here we can simply say error.request, response, next. And then we can simply send back the response.status would be equal to something, and then we can simply send back the message itself, and we can create those variables here. That is, status would be equal to error dot status, or we can simply throw a generic 500 error, and const message equal to error dot message, or we can simply throw a generic message, that is internal server error. So internal server error, like this, and then we can simply send back these things here, that is status, and then we can simply send back message like this. So this is a proper way to handle the errors inside your server.js file. And here we can use a 404 route also. So here we can simply say request comma response comma next, and here we can simply say const error equal to new error, not found, error dot status equal to 404, and here we can simply say next with the error as the only parameter. So this makes much more sense and it's better. So now this is a complete full-blown application. So if we go back, and this time our application won't crash as it was happening before. So let's go back and let's call the API route, or call the protected route. So we get this message that is login required, and if we call the API route, we get this message that is hello from index route. So let's try to make one more route here that is also protected. So app.get, or let me simply copy this route from here, that is this protected route, and we'll change the URL. So let's copy it and let's paste it here, and let's simply change it to 2. So let's save this, and now let's go to this app.js and let's try to call that route that is called protected 2, which is called without sending the Axios without sending the bearer header. So this should not throw an error. So let's go back, and now let's call the API route, and we are getting this message that is request failed with status code 401. And if we have a look here, that the application didn't crash, that is the server didn't crash. So this is how we should handle it. So let's remove this, and let's go to our server.js. So let's remove this. So this is how we protect our API and our front end. So this is how easy it was using Auth0 for using as an authentication provider for your application, and it was super simple to implement. And there is one more last thing, that is how do we get the user details on the server side. So if we call this protected API route, we see that we are getting this thing here. So let's simply log in again with redirect. So let me quickly do it, and let me fast forward it. So now we are logged in, and if we call this protected API route, we are getting this message. But let's go back and let's have a look at what we have inside this thing here. So let's go to the server.js file, and inside this protected route, what we want to get the user info from this JSON web token, that is the access token. So if we console.log here something that is, or let me simply send back here, that is request.user instead of this thing here, request.user. So basically what this middleware does is that whatever the payload is it attaches that payload as the request.user object. So that is what I'm sending back here to the client, that is to the front end. So let's go back, and now let me call this protected API route, and this time we see that we are getting this array back that comes from request.user. But this object does not contain any resourceful information for the server. That is, if we simply log here, that is console.log request.user, and if we save this, and if we again make a request here called protected API route, we see that we have this thing here inside the user object. But this doesn't make any sense to the server. But what we want to have here is the actual details of the user, that is their email, their name, their nickname, their profile image. So how do we do it, or how do we get those values? So it is pretty simple to do. Firstly, we need to extract the JWT from the header. So what we can simply say access token equal to request dot headers dot authorization header, and then we need to split the authorization header with a space, and then we need to have the first value, that is 0 was bearer and the first one was the token. And if you don't know what this means, if we have a look at the app.js file, when we are sending the authorization header, so we have this bearer token as one string. and it has a space in between. So what we are doing here is that we are getting the request header, and then we are targeting this authorization header, and then from that string which is contained inside this authorization header is this string, and then we are splitting this string with a space in between, and then we are taking only this token thing here. So now we have this access token here. So that is what I've done here. And now what we need to do, we need to make a request to get the user info. So how do we do that? So it is pretty simple. So we can simply say const user info equal to Axios. So since I'm using Axios, so I need to make it async like this. And then we also need to use try catch. So let the catching be at the very bottom. And if there is an error, we can simply send back the error, that is send error.message like that. And now we can simply use await Axios dot get, and here we need to get something. And from where do we want to get? We can get the user info from our tenant. So this is the URL of our tenant. This is the issuer. So let's copy this URL. Let's paste it here. And then we need to call this URL, that is user info, not user info, but user info. And here we also need to pass in the header, which is again the authorization header containing this access token. So again, we need to do the same thing. We need to provide in the header, and then we need to provide in the authorization header. And here we again need to provide in a token as a bearer token. So here we can simply say bearer $access token, simply like this. And now we have the user info, or we have the response here, not the user info. So it should be called response. And then we can get the user info from this response. So we can say const user info equal to response dot data like this. And we can log it inside the console as well. So console.log user info. And then we can also send back the user info here. So we can simply say user info like this. So let's save this. And if we go back and if we call this protected route again, and if we clear out the console, so let's call this protected API route. And this time we see that we have all the user info here. We have the email verified, name, nickname, picture, subscriber ID, updated ad. And if we go back, here we also see that we have all the required things coming from the user info thing. Though what you can do inside your application, you can again create a middleware. So you do not have to get the user info in each and every route. You can simply create a middleware to get the user info, and then you can simply attach the user object inside the request.user thing instead of the default request.user coming from this thing. So this is how we get the user info server side. So I guess that this is all about this application or this video. So if you like the video, do hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support me, you can support me on patreon.com or you can PayPal me. So thank you. Bye bye. Tata. Take care and have a good day and have a great day.